Good morning. Good morning, everybody. So good to see each and every one of you that is here. It's great to have you with us this morning for our worship service on Zoom. It's a real worship service, even though the venue is virtual. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Joan Montagnes, and I have the honor and privilege of serving you, this congregation, and you personally as minister. So nice to have you all here, assembled in your very own homes or wherever you are. You chose to come here and make this a sacred time. Welcome. Welcome to worship. I want to give you a couple of little notes about our Zoom worship. This is a Zoom webinar, which means that we can't see or hear you. You can't see or hear each other. You can see and hear our worship associate, the Reverend Fran Manley, our special guest star, Beth White, and you can see me. You can also chat with each other all the way through the service. I want to offer a big shout out to Josh Disick, John Petroselli, Karen Streech, Bobby Withrow, and all our music staff who help create our worship experiences every week. Where would we be without them, really? Big note here. We are holding a fall congregational meeting at noon today on Zoom. You can find the address for this meeting in your e-blast. Please, if you are a member in good standing in our congregation, please attend this meeting. We're going to be trying to pass our 2021 budget. And speaking of which, naturally within the budget, there is the bit about pledge income. And so we're going to start the pledge drive. We want to kick it off with a big open house celebration Saturday. So mark your calendars with October 24th between 10 and 2 p.m. Celebration Saturday open house. We're going to kick off the stewardship drive for the 2021 church year and come for fun and fellowship. There'll probably be some music and swag bags and people. We're going to keep safely distanced, so it'll be all cool. And be prepared at that time to make your financial commitment to the church for the 2021 budget year. Another announcement, every Friday in October from at 7 o'clock, every Friday in October at 7 o'clock, outside the garden entrance, I will be holding Vesper services, just a very short Vesper service of a half hour, come rain or shine. We did it last week and it was indeed rainy, but we did it anyway. 11 stalwart souls showed up. You'll see a picture of that. Thank you, Karen Streech, for making that happen later on in the service. And we had a nice time. It was good to see each other. We even had a very small, real, face-to-face, mask-to-mask coffee hour. That's just some people went out afterwards. And I have a special announcement from Fran Manley in my list. So Fran, what have you got to say to us?
A number of you have recently brought a little piece of our beloved sanctuary into your homes by ordering a copy of Peter Sloan's Light O'Lear print, the one that's hanging behind Joan. You might have also liked his print of our church's beautiful West Ferry door here on my wall. Very soon, you'll have a chance to order your own copy of this print as well. You'll find a preliminary announcement in this week's e-blast, and keep watching the e-blast for more detailed information about how you can get your very own West Ferry door print coming soon.
I want to remind you again that after every service, we have a Zoom fellowship time. You log out of this webinar into a new Zoom meeting. You have to choose a different Zoom address. That's in the address for that is in the e-blast. And this will be a Zoom meeting, so you'll be able to see and hear each other. We break you into small groups so you can actually talk to one another without turning it into garbledness, and get to know new friends and see old friends, and it's lots and lots of fun. So come to that about 5 minutes after this service concludes, and then after that we will hold a congregational meeting. A quick reminder that we have a bazillion different activities going on during the week on Zoom platforms. We've got religious education Sunday afternoons, choir meetings, classes with Michael Harris, restorative practice, peace circles, covenant groups, and daily brown bags every day except for Sunday. And the way to get onto that is all of those activities and more is to look at your e-blast and your newsletter. And if you're not getting the e-blast, please contact our administrator, Ashley Mountcastle, who is in the church office. And that is more than enough announcing. I know that's not what you came here for, but it's all part of community building. But what you came here for is worshiping, so let's do it. Come. Let's worship.
Let us call ourselves to be fully present in this time and this place with these words of the Reverend Marge Kipe. As surely as we belong to the universe, we belong together. We join here to transcend the isolated self, to reconnect, to know ourselves, to be at home here on earth, under the stars, linked with each other. Come, let us worship.
Good morning. In case you don't know me, my name is Beth White, and I'm here today to tell you why I joined this community and continue to support it. I joined the church about 8 years ago, a difficult time soon after my ex and I separated. More than anything, I think I was looking for a community that could ground my 3 young kids, and probably me as well. Music had always been a huge part of my spiritual life, even before I could name that need. Though I was on a break from singing when my kids were young, I was ready to get back to it. I'd been singing in choirs around town for years, and anyone who was part of the Buffalo choral music scene then knew of the legendary Barbara Wagner. So the music program here was a big draw. I had also heard great things about the church's RE program and its open-minded approach. When I first started attending, testing it out, I would sit in our sanctuary, soaking up the words and the gorgeous music in that space, gazing at the beautiful wood and stained glass. There was always a moment that brought me to tears. I decided this was a good place for my family. I could sing, my kids could be here with me, and we could join a tolerant and loving community. I joined the choir soon after. As it turned out, I only got to sing with Barbara for a few months before she became ill, but it was an honor to sing for her briefly and to sing for Dan since then, and with all of our amazing musical staff members over the years. We are so blessed in this church with musical knowledge and talent. The choir and soloists sing everything from Bach to opera to Bowie to show tunes to underappreciated pieces by women and composers of color to new compositions sung by our own staff. Our accompanists are rock stars in their own right. It's truly special, as is the fantastic camaraderie of the choir members. I'm lucky to be part of that community. My kids' lives are also richer for the connections they've made with their teachers and friends in RE. We started coming during the interim minister period when RE attendance was small, and it's been wonderful to watch the program grow under Sarah Martin's leadership these past years. Now there are options for kids based on their needs and their temperaments. I've also been really fortunate to teach monthly workshop classes and get to know some of the kids and families in our community. This church and its people have meant so much to us, and all the effort to keep the community going in our strange virtual world right now means even more. I give what I can every year to help support this community, and I hope you'll do the same. Please join me in lighting our chalice. You're not going to be able to see me do this, but I'm going to hold it up when I'm done. We gather in loving community, inspiring one another to transform ourselves to create a more just and compassionate world.
Let's join in singing. There is more love somewhere.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy
Once upon a time, there was an emperor who loved fine clothes. He had a different set of clothes for every hour of the day. He loved to walk about and show off his fancy outfits. Tailors from far and wide would bring their best silks and satins to him. He would choose the most expensive fabric, and from that fabric the tailors would sew a brand new set of clothes for the emperor. Well, one day, two men came to the kingdom, and they were swindlers. They told the emperor that they were master weavers from a faraway land. They told the emperor that they could weave the most beautiful cloth in the world. Not only was their cloth beautiful, it was also magical. It was specially woven so only the very wise could see it. Those who were ignorant could stare at the cloth all day long and not see a thing. Astonishing, thought the emperor. I will have these men make a suit for me. When it is finished, I will be able to tell which of my people are wise and which are fools. The emperor gave the swindlers a fat bag of gold coins and told them to begin weaving the magic cloth right away. The swindlers set up two looms and pretended to begin weaving their magic cloth. But they had nothing on their looms. After a few days, the emperor went to check to see how his new clothes were progressing. When he entered the room where the swindlers were pretending to work, they asked him, "Your Highness, how do you like the cloth we're weaving for you? The embroidered flowers, the shining silk?" The emperor, of course, saw nothing on the looms because there was, in fact, nothing there. "This is terrible," he thought. "I see no cloth at all. What could this mean? Surely I can't be ignorant." But to show how wise he was, the emperor pretended to see the cloth and said out loud, "Oh my, it is magnificent, simply magnificent." He was just about to leave the room when the other swindler said, "Sire, don't you want to feel the fabric? Have you ever had clothes so soft?" The emperor went to the loom and rubbed his hands along the place where he thought the cloth should be. Of course, he couldn't feel anything, but he said, "Oh, yes, very, very soft. In fact, lighter than air." "Thank you," said the first swindler. "We're very pleased with what we've done, but we need a little more money for thread and needles and such." "Of course," said the emperor quickly, and he gave the swindlers another fat bag of gold coins. Then he quickly scuttled out of the room. The swindlers worked long into the night. They wove on their empty looms. They cut the air with scissors. They stitched the wind with threadless needles. Other royalty came to look at the cloth, and they all pretended to see it because they didn't want to be thought of as ignorant. Soon the whole kingdom was talking about the magic cloth as the emperor and the emperor's new clothes. In the morning, the two swindlers presented themselves in the emperor's dressing room. "Here's the jacket," said the first, swindler, holding up an empty hanger. "And here are the pence," said the other swindler, holding his empty hands up in the air. "Do they meet your expectations, sire?" The emperor and all his attendants agreed that the new clothes were splendid, and the emperor proceeded to dress in the imaginary clothes, hoping he was getting it right. When the emperor was done, all of the swindlers said, "How handsome you look!" And all the courtiers smiled and nodded in agreement. By this time, the emperor was so convinced that he could practically feel the clothes on his body. He could almost see the beautiful cloth and the fine tailoring. So he marched right out of the dressing room, down the stairway, out the palace doors, and down the city's main street, where all the people of the kingdom were waiting to see the emperor in his new magical clothes. The emperor's advisors all followed behind him, and they made a proud parade as they marched through the city. How lovely are the emperor's new clothes," a man said from the crowd. "And how well they fit him," said a woman. None of the people would admit that they couldn't see the magic cloth. The emperor marched down the street showing off his new clothes to everyone in the land. Much to his surprise, they all seemed to see what he could not. He'd got quite a ways down the road when this one kid jumped out of the crowd and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Look! Look! The emperor has no clothes on!" A hush fell over the crowd. For a few minutes, nobody said anything. Then people began to whisper, "That kid's right. The emperor has no clothes on." Then the people slowly began to smile and then giggle and then laugh as they shouted, "He's got nothing on. He's got nothing on at all." At last, the emperor knew he had been tricked. He tried to march back to the palace as proudly as ever, but he was blushing from head to toe, as everyone could plainly see, and because he was a good emperor with a royal sense of humor, the emperor was also laughing to himself at his own foolishness.
Every week, we take a good portion of our Sunday morning offering and give it away to a social justice cause outside our church walls. This month, we're supporting the good work of Prisoners Are People Too. Prisoners Are People Too works to educate the community about issues impacting incarcerated and formerly incarcerated individuals, with emphasis on the humanity of both the victim and the offender. You can make your offering with PayPal by going to our website, www.buffalouu.org, and clicking on the blue Donate button. Or you can send a check by mail to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Buffalo, 695 Elmwood Avenue, Buffalo, New York, 14222. Or you can also arrange a regular automatic deposit with your bank. If yours is a gift to our Share the Plate ministry, please write "Share" on the memo line, and it will be shared between Prisoners Are People Too and the church operating budget. If yours is a welcome gift to our congregation, please write "Pledge 2020" on the memo line. Either way, please write UUCB on the important line, and we will do the bookkeeping. May our compassion fuel our generosity, and our generosity empower transformation.
Careful the things you say, children will listen. Careful the things you do, children will see and learn. Children may not obey, but children will listen. Children will look to you for which way to turn, to learn what to be. Careful before you say, listen to me. Children will listen. Careful the wish you make, wishes are children. Careful the path they take, wishes come true. Not free. Careful the spell you cast, not just on children. Sometimes the spell may last past what you can see and turn against you. Careful the tale you tell, that is the spell. Children will listen.
Our reading this morning comes from the Reverend Natalie Maxwell Fenimore from Centering, Navigating Race, Authenticity and Power in Ministry. She writes, I come to Unitarian Universalism from a testifying religious tradition, not a confessing tradition. I come from a tradition where you stand in the midst of people and speak your pain out loud. You call the pain into the room, and everybody in the room is called to attend to it. That is what unity is. That is what church is. We are called to attend to each other the way that we really are, not our passing selves. Church, faith community, is about building places where we can process pain and struggle as well as love and celebration. This is strength in the valley theology. Unitarian Universalism has long turned toward a mountaintop theology. But you cannot really get to the mountaintop until you've been in the valley. You can't just skip over the struggle. As an institution, Unitarian Universalism does Easter without Good Friday. So Unitarian Universalism struggles with how we, as a religious body, can build a structure for learning how to hold pain. And I think that one way Unitarian Universalism tries to do that quickly is to cheat and steal it. Steal it from other people's traditions. The harder and slower route is to be in relationship with communities who have been in the valley and to let them lead the climb to the mountain, to be in relationship with community of color and with other communities that the dominant culture deems marginal. There are things I've learned in the African American religious community, things I hear from people in the Hispanic Catholic tradition, things I hear from the Muslim traditions, and from indigenous peoples of faith. This knowledge and experience can enrich Unitarian Universalism. When I am invited into Unitarian Universalism, when those from other traditions are invited in, all that they have to offer must be invited in.
Let's join our hearts and minds in a quiet moment of prayer, meditation, and reflection. May we live beyond our dependence on opposites. Transcend our need to know who is like us and who is not. May we feel the complexity that embodies our whole community, the multiple stories written on each body, stories about both and neither, branching stories full of contradictions. May we listen deeply and slowly begin to truly know one another in fullness. Today we specially hold in our hearts Paul Zanoli and his family. Paul's father passed away this week. And we also hold Leslie Nickerson and her family in our hearts. Leslie's grandmother passed away this week. And now let us open our worship space to the names of all our loved ones, celebrating in joy and suffering in sorrow. Each name a breath, each breath a prayer. The breath of nature is upon us. The spirit of life is within us. The community of love is among us. So be it. Blessed be. And let the church say, Amen. When we tell fairy tales to one another, it is sometimes fun to ask, who are you in the story? In The Emperor's New Clothes, everybody wants to be the kid who called out the emperor is running around naked, right? We all want to say, hey, look, the emperor's running around naked. That's the punchline of the story. We like being the ones with the single, irrefutable truth. We like to be the ones who know what's what and be right. But if you're anything like me, you're the more likely to be one of the smiling and nodding courtiers or the ordinary people on the street who all want to believe, in spite of all the evidence to the contrary, that they're very wise. Often I even feel like the emperor himself, having bought the story at so vast a sum that I sacrifice even my own truth. So please don't jump to any conclusions. I really would like you to not, I mean, I can't tell you what to do, but I invite you not to jump to any conclusions. That I told you this morning's story to reflect the nature of any political candidates. That's really not where I was going with it. And besides, this week, for sure, that would not be cool. I'm not comfortable with that. Rather, what I wonder about is the magical cloth itself and how we have all got tangled in its threads. I wonder what magical cloth has been woven for fat bags of gold over the years, and how we have learned that our magical cloth is so good and true and beautiful. We have so come to believe that this cloth exists without a shadow of a doubt, that we see it, we feel it, we know it is there, even though it is a construction of pure imagination. I also wonder today, who's playing the role of the kid, right? Who's playing the role of the kid who calls us out of the illusion? Who's raising up their voice and speaking their pain loud enough for us to hear? And how is the community responding to those voices? Are we listening? Are we responding to the truth in love? Are we inviting all into the circle of concern with all they have to offer? And finally, I wonder just how long it will take us to go from a firm belief in the con job to realizing that we've been tricked. Here's a story for you. Some years ago, in a land far, far away, I happened to run into a couple of nuns I knew from an interfaith organization. We ran into each other at an airport. I was coming from DC. They were coming home from Boston. We all had to change planes in Atlanta. And since we had some time to kill before our homebound flight, Sister Felicity said, "Why don't we go get a beer?" Now, there's got to be some sort of joke about that, right? Two sisters and a Unitarian minister go for a beer. But anyway, I'd never been out for a beer with a couple of nuns, and it kind of threw me for a loop. But I played it cool. Drinking with the sisters, okay. I played it cool until Sister Hope said to Sister Felicity, I think Father Peter is gay and he doesn't know it. Well, that was it. All my assumptions were shook up like a set of Yahtzee dice. The one-dimensional stories I've been telling myself about nuns, priests, Catholicism in general, celibacy in particular, shattered into a million pieces. The convenient fabric of my reality drooped in its self-assurance. My ignorance was hanging out there and naked, blowing in the wind. Eventually, though, the good sisters noticed that I was staring at them agog, and they generously told me a little bit about their religious life and some of their very human stories. I wonder what kind of Yahtzee dice moment it's going to take for society to listen past our shared assumptions and ignorance. I wonder just how long it's going to take dominant culture to go from a firm belief in the simple story we've been told to realize we've been conned by a bunch of swindlers. How long will it take for us to finally listen to the real and multiple stories in our midst? Perhaps most important, how long will it take for dominant culture to call themselves to listen to the silenced and ignored who are shouting out from their deep and real pain? Here's another story for you. Some years ago, Martin and I were fortunate enough to visit the holiest pilgrimage site of the Sikh religion, the Golden Temple in Amritsar. We covered our heads with scarves and washed our feet outside the temple, then entered slowly and respectfully the white alabaster courtyard, which encircles a reflecting pool, which in turn encircles the golden temple itself. Pilgrims, Sikh men, women, and children from around the world sat on rattan mats, wandered the grounds, gazed across the water, ate communal meals, and most important, processed past the Holy of Holies, a sacred book of scripture housed in the temple. Martin and I felt so privileged to be there amongst such marvelous religious devotion and exoticism. The romantic wonders of the Orient. We found a seat by the side of the reflecting pool and began to absorb the smells and sounds and sights. Eventually, a young, tall, elegant Sikh man, dressed all in white with a saffron-colored turban, glided slowly towards us, inclined his head and said, "What country are you from?" in perfect English. "Canada," we replied. "What city?" he asked, politely making conversation with the white people in his temple. "Toronto," said we. "Hey, me too," said our new Sikh friend. Yahtzee! Assumptions all shook up. I told this guy's story to myself before he even opened his mouth. You know, we claim to be people of deep listening, and it's hard to be people of deep listening when we only listen to people with whom we already agree. It is hard to be people of deep listening when we only listen to the stories we already accept as true. It's easy enough to listen to people just like us. You can even wind each other up with a lot of, yeah, those guys over there, they're really ruining the country. If we were running things, it would sure be different around here. It's even easy to whisper together in the corner, that so-and-so has a really politically correct chip on their shoulder. We can wind each other up all the way to the top of the mountain and walk away feeling pretty energized and good about ourselves. I've done it. Maybe you have too. The struggle comes when we choose to do the spiritual work in the valley. Deep listening begins when we feel called to go beyond telling the same stories to one another, the same stories we've heard before. Deep listening begins when we feel called to transform our relationships and our assumptions. Deep listening begins when we listen to those in our community who have been silenced or ignored. Deep listening will begin when we enter the valley and have a real Yahtzee reality shaking moment. Only then can transformation begin. Another story. Long, long ago, before I entered the ministry, I participated in an anti-racism workshop. In one of the exercises, I was paired up with a young Black woman, and we were given a list of words. We were told to discuss whether each of the words was good or bad. The only reason I remember this exercise is because one of the words on the list was the word better. I said it was a good word, thinking I can always improve myself. I can always be better than I am today. Society can be better than it is today. So I said, it's a good word. Much to my surprise, my partner said, no, it's a bad word. I said good. She said bad. I said good. She said bad. And before we could get past our ping pong and into a conversation, the time was up. No Yahtzee. I missed my opportunity to listen to her story. I could have asked. I would love to hear what the word better means to you. I could have disarmed my heart and given her story a caring place to rest. Deep listening begins when we dare to listen to people tell the stories of their lives, lives different from our own. And honestly, they're all different from our own, right? Yours is different from mine. Mine is different from yours and our neighbors. Our neighbor's story is different from the strangers. And all are true. All are worthy, all are multidimensional, branching stories of contradictions that make up the whole. There is a complexity embodied in every member of our community. Multiple stories written on each body, stories about both and neither. The illness of this land lies woven in an illusionary fabric of either or. The illusionary cloth that we all see and feel and often find lovely is a unidimensional story we tell ourselves about ourselves and each other. And that cloth is a dangerous swindle written by the few for financial gain. Speak colonialism, speak white supremacy, speak patriarchy, jingoism, ableism, transphobia, and whatever form of oppression you choose. Each writes one person with many stories and multiple identities down to a single con job narrative so another can rise. As faithful people who wish to transform the world one relationship at a time, we are called to struggle in the valley as much as rejoice at the mountaintop. As surely as we belong to the universe, we belong together. As people of deep listening, let us join to hear the many complexities we hold. Hear the stories of the silenced and the oppressed. Acknowledge our ignorance with humility and listen to transcend the isolated self, to connect, to reconnect, to know ourselves in fullness, to be at home here on earth under the stars and linked together. Let's join in singing. Wake now, my senses.
Wake now, my senses, and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in awe. Deep with the web of creation, your love, giving, receiving, as love shows us how. Wake now, my reason, reach out to thy moon. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take us on with both stranger and friend, praying and striving the hardship to end.
As we bring our service to a close, let us say together our words for extinguishing the chalice. As we extinguish the flame of this chalice, may we carry its light with us into the world in the power of peace, faith, justice, and love.
Truly, listen to each other. Share your stories. Be ready at any moment to disarm your own heart. Remember, you're blessed. Remember, you are a blessing. And above all else, remember, you are not alone. You are never alone. So be it. Blessed be, and let the church say, Amen.